Hey guys, what's up? This is Diego here at Cinemageddon Reviews. So, I'm here today to talk about The Suicide Squad. This is the latest DC Comics movie that came out this past weekend. It's got a lot of people on the internet talking about it, so let's get involved. However, this is also a review where I get to tell you guys if it's worth seeing in theaters amidst the coronavirus pandemic. So without further ado, welcome to another edition of Stories from the Wasteland. Now, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. I know that some people out there still haven't seen it, so don't worry, this review isn't going to contain any spoilers for any major plot points. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, here we go. So, The Suicide Squad is a sequel to Suicide Squad. This is going to be confusing. This movie was written and directed by James Gunn, the man behind the Guardians of the Galaxy films, and it stars Idris Elba, Margot Robbie, Peter Capaldi, Sylvester Stallone, John Cena, Margot Robbie, Viola Davis, Joel Kinnaman, Margot Robbie, Nathan Fillion, Pete Davidson, Taika Waititi, and Margot Robbie. So in this movie, like the first one, Viola Davis' character Amanda Waller sends a team of highly skilled criminals on a dangerous mission in exchange for knocking a few years off their prison sentences. This time, the Suicide Squad goes to a tropical island to find out more about a secret project called Project Starfish. And Margot Robbie's in the movie too. Let's get this out of the way real quick. The first Suicide Squad movie, at least the version that was released in theaters, was kind of terrible. It had a few good casting choices, most notably Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, Will Smith as Deadshot, Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, and a couple other ones. But for the most part, the story was kind of lacking. Now, whether or not there really is a David Ayer cut of that original film, I don't know. I was skeptical myself about the Snyder cut, admittedly, but then that movie turned out to be a real thing, and it actually turned out to be pretty good. So I'm going to keep an open mind as far as the Ayer cut, but that's beside the point. The point is, I understood what the goal was, essentially, with that first film and why studios interfered so much with it. They wanted it to essentially cash in on the hype of the original Guardians of the Galaxy. The first time they tried that, they crapped the bed. Massively. The second time, they brought in James Gunn, the mastermind behind those two films. And it turned out to be exactly what they wanted, because this movie was a lot of fun, you guys. The writing and directing were spectacular, the comedy and the action are great. It's not 100% perfect, of course, but this was a very big step in the right direction. One thing that James Gunn really excelled at with Guardians of the Galaxy was bringing obscure characters to the big screen that you may have never heard of before, and telling a fun story with them. I personally had never heard of Groot or Rocket before the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, but now they're two of my favorite Marvel characters. And in the Suicide Squad, it's no exception. There's a character in this movie that throws polka dots at people. And on paper, that might sound like a stupid superpower to have, but it's anything but. In fact, he was actually one of my favorite characters in the movie. He added a lot of fun to the action and to the humor as well, surprisingly. Another standout for me in this movie was John Cena! Come on, you knew that was coming. You can't get mad at me for that. John Cena in this movie plays a character named Peacemaker, and I always knew that he was good at adding humor to the movies he was in, but one thing I didn't expect was just how actually interesting of an addition his character was. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I really enjoyed this character. And this isn't a spoiler, but they've already announced a spin-off series based on the character Peacemaker, and I honestly can't wait for it. I really want to see more of what they do with this character. Margot Robbie's in this movie too, and here you go. And that's all I have to say about that. But seriously, you already know that Margot Robbie is excellent as this character. That should come as no surprise. What did surprise me is that they took a direction with Harley Quinn's character that I wasn't expecting, but it felt like such a Harley Quinn thing to do. And there's a scene in this movie where she does something that I'm not going to spoil, but I honestly stood up and started clapping for. In fact, the whole cast is actually pretty great. James Gunn actually took the time with the script to give us a lot of moments to see characters shine on their own, whether it was with humor or with action. These are the type of ensemble films that I feel like we should be seeing a lot more of. Just letting us get to know the characters and seeing them interact with each other while they work together to finish the mission. Where I think this movie falls short is actually in that same aspect. Some people may not have a problem with this, but I felt like in a specific scene, there were certain characters that were handled in a way that seemed a little wasteful, I want to say. I'm not going to spoil it, but I do have to mention that parts of it did feel a little disappointing to me. That being said, I did enjoy the Suicide Squad overall. In fact, I would say I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting. It just tells a fun story that has a lot of good humor and R-rated action, and most of all, it was fun without feeling like it was at the expense of the audience. In fact, it actually gave you something to latch onto emotionally. I mean, it made me care about a talking shark. A talking shark. I mean, only James Gunn can do that. One other nitpick I might have is that 2 of the 3 villains that we have in this movie are kind of throwaway. They're not really all that compelling. And the way part of the story ends is a little bit on the quick side. But honestly, it didn't get in the way of how I felt at the end of the film. And with that said, my rating for the Suicide Squad is 9.5 out of 10. Margot Robbie still gets a 10 out of 10 though. Just making that clear. So in my opinion, you should definitely see the Suicide Squad. You can watch it however you want. I personally saw it on HBO Max, but if you wanted to see a movie in theaters this week, this is also a really good choice. Just please be safe out there. The pandemic is still going on, and it's important not to get sick, so just take care of yourselves out there. So if you've seen the Suicide Squad, please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Do you like it or do you hate it? And how do you think this ranks compared to the other DC Comics films? Now please make sure that whatever your thoughts are, please keep the comments spoiler free. Let's make this a safe comment section for everyone who hasn't seen the film yet, at least for a little bit. Really appreciate that. As always, be sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and please support our Patreon. We really appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Diego for Cinemageddon Reviews, and I'll see you on the Wasteland.